Hey, hello, welcome, lovely people. Today I thought I'd just drop another quick video on a couple of different things. One of which is something that I've been working on for a few hours now, and I think it's kind of cool. I've created this. Alright, so I was playing Ark, and you run around on these dinosaurs, and it just doesn't quite feel like there's the sense of power or ferocity that you want to maybe get out of those dinosaurs. I know they're going to keep adding that, it's early access and everything, but it started to get me thinking about how it might feel to create controls for a creature that you're riding that kind of perform a lot like a vehicle. So that sense of drifting and power and acceleration that you get from driving games, but trying to graft that onto an animal. And so I scouted around and I found a pack of a horse model and a couple of horse animations that are actually from a Unity asset pack that I've ported over here into Unreal, and I've set up what I'm calling an animal vehicle. So I'll give you a quick look at the blueprint first, maybe. Okay, so I'll briefly walk through this. Okay, so we can pawn it, we can do things like turn it, but what you might see here is that get rid of this crap because that's not doing anything. I was doing a thing where I was dividing the maximum speed by the horse speed to get a percentage of how fast you were going. However, this takes the axis for your turning. This is kind of an interesting thing. This is where I'm trying to put the drifting stuff in, where you've got this curve that's being piped in, and then we can pole that curve at a certain point in time. So it's essentially like having an animation, but I'm using it as a multiplier for the input that's coming in from my controller. So you're getting the advantage of that analog control, but based upon the fraction of the maximum speed. So I don't know where I'm defining that. Let's find out where I do that. Set horse speed fraction. Alright, so this is part of the tick, right? So I'm getting the velocity that the horse is moving at. I get the vector length of that velocity, and then I pipe that into the horse speed. So that's the number that it's using for the total speed, and then I get the current speed and divide it by the max speed. So essentially the same thing I was doing up the top, but I push that out to a variable, and that's a 0 to 1 value. So that's normalized, which means that I can multiply anything else by 0 to 1 in the rest of my whole horse system, my whole movement system, based upon that percentage of velocity. So that's really powerful, because if I pipe that into something like the horse turn, we can see that's using a curve data asset. So I'll find that in here, and this is linear at the moment, but what it's essentially doing is that at time 0 it's going to multiply whatever my input is to the final rotation value that it's passing to the horse by 0.05. So it's going to do very little. As my horse begins to accelerate, let's say it gets up to about 0.5 of its total speed. So if I were to change the max speed of the character controller, as I can in here, character movement, where's max speed? Something like max walk speed or something like that. Here we go. Max walk speed is 600 right now. If I were to make that 800, it would still be multiplying across that curve because of the way that I'm deriving my normalized value to drive this. So it's essentially scrubbing a playhead between 0 and 1 across this sort of timeline, this curve, and multiplying the resulting value based upon it, which means that I can sort of tweak the point at which the horse reaches its top speed, which is at 1, and control how much you can turn. So the idea being that you don't really have a great deal of control left and right of the horse at very high speed, but when it slows back down a little bit, you have quite a bit more. And you'll notice that I'm actually only ever pushing this to 0.5. I'm sure that I could have divisors in there and keep it all normalized so that it was a 0 to 1 value in this particular axis, but I've just found through a tiny little bit of tweaking that when it was moving at sort of mid-speed, he would turn quite a lot. He would be sort of spinning on the spot, because my animations aren't terribly comprehensive. There are 3 animations. So anyway, blah, 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 blah. Let's have a look at what it looks like. Oh, so actually, sorry, the other thing is that I've got an orient to ground function. I found a thread on AnswerHub about making your character controller match the ground plane, where you just do a raycast down from the world location of, say, an extra component that you have in your hierarchy, or you could use the mesh or anything you wanted. Point it down to the ground, push it down well below the player's ground spot, and then from that hit result you take the impact normal, and you make a rotation from the Z and X value. you get the X from the forward vector and the Z from the impact normal, and then pipe that into a rotation, and then there's another one that sets the actor rotation. I'm actually interpolating it. So when I had it set up originally, it would just like pop and snap every time that value changed. But now I've actually set up a rotational interpolation so that it's a little bit smoother, and that seems to make it feel a bit better. The other thing that's kind of, I mean, it's cool, but it was actually part of the original idea, is the camera update horse camera. So what that's doing is it is taking the horse speed fraction, again, I'm using that value, and lerping between two different values for the target arm length on the boom, the spring arm. So that's what the Halsey looks like. And I got the spring arm here, and so based upon the speed that I'm moving, if I'm going very, very slowly, it's going to be at about 300. But if I hit my top speed, it comes down to like 30, which is right behind its head, and gives you a real sense of speed. Now, the other thing that I do intend to do is have it so that this spring arm will also angle a little bit to give you a bit more of a forward view of what you're doing when you're going at high speed, but that's not too much of an issue right now. What else have we got? So that's modifying that. It's also lerping. Okay, so it's also doing some stuff to do with rotating the camera. Oh yeah, no, actually it is. So the spring arm, when I was talking about doing this kind of rotation to level it out, I am actually doing that. I forgot. I did this at like 4 o'clock this morning, and I'm just recording this now a few hours later, so brain not working good. So it is lerping based upon that 0 to 1 value. So you can pipe this into all kinds of crazy lerps and have everything be driven by it. And then if you add a curve into it, so you'll see that I've got the horse turn curve. I've also got a horse drift curve here, which is slightly different, so that once it kind of hits half speed, it's going to start incorporating what I want to do with the drifting, where the horse is actually going to slide out and have a little bit more of an angle to side. When you try and make it turn, it's going to have to bank a bit, and its feet might slip out from under it, and give you that sense of cool kind of like you're on the back of a really powerful creature. So these lerps come in, and they also change the roll rotation as well, which I could probably make a bit more extreme for the purposes of the demo. I'll push that up to 90, but it's going to look totally messed up. And I just set a relative rotation for the camera on the boom arm, so it's only going to affect rotations at that point, or indeed at that point, or just in its local transform. That's where it's going to do its stuff. So it's interping in the same way that the boom arm, the camera spring arm, is going to be interpolating, and it just sets a relative rotation. So without further ado, God, geez, you've taken like 5 minutes to get to the 7 minutes is going to get to the point where you're going to actually show it. So you can see I've got a drift offset value here. If I hold down the trigger, he starts to walk along, and the camera kind of blends in. I've got some lag on the rotation for the camera, but then as the blend space kicks in, he starts to go a bit faster. That's all and good. And if I let it go, he actually slows down and comes to a stop. Now, obviously, I can smooth out the translation for the camera, but I'm pushing the rotation for the stick really strongly in either way here, and he's just not responding. But if I hold down the right turn and start to pick up some speed, you can see he turns quite hard, and then as he gets a bit faster, so you can see the camera getting its roll coming in as we turn. Oh god, oh no, he's off screen now. Ooh, that's strange. I think I might have made that value a little bit too extreme, and it may even have been on the wrong one. So what did I push that to? 90. Make that 45 again. That should probably work well. But all of these lerps and all of these blends and stuff are being driven by pretty much a single value, that velocity one. So as it turns, it kind of leans over to the side a bit, and as he kind of picks up more speed, we get into this camera view, and you can run around, and you let it go, and he'll come to a stop. He'll run through his blend space. That's very hard for him to turn. Cool. So that's just a cheeky little quick preview of what I've got going with my Halsey vehicle sort of situation. It is quite janky, and I do pretty much guarantee that if you were to look at this from the outside, not from this first-person view, his feet would be sliding, the turning would look super dodgy, because there are only 3 animations in this whole set. So the fact that, let's have a look at them. Mesh Inherited, and in Blueprint, and in BP. Alright, so the only variable that I'm piping into my animation blueprint, because I suck with that in BP right now, I need to get so much better with it, is horse speed. There's one for horse turn, but it's not being used. and so that just basically just plugs straight into that blend space. Super, super basic. As far as the animations go, the blend space is such that you've got your idle one, and we blend. So you can see it kind of has a little bit of a trot happening there. What you might also see is that I've got little dust particles on its feet as it walks along, which looks kind of cool. And then as it sort of blends into the run, so there's a point where it's like, weird jankiness. But once he gets up to that top speed, he'll hit that stride. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There is a second part that I want to do, actually the proper tutorial, which was on to do with some camera stuff. So I might stop now and then boot that up and show you this. But I wanted to show you the horsey stuff first, so you got a bit of an idea of it and maybe how you can make your own sort of custom characters that you can move around in this way. All right, cheers, thank you.